Okay, today's daf is Yoma Lamed Gimel Yoma 33. The Gemara on the top. Abayim Sadem Arach Mishmei. The Gemara believe Abashal. He says the order of things they used to do every morning in the Beis Hamikdash. The Gemara on the bottom of Lamed Gimel Med Aleph says one of the things was V'dishim Mizbeach Hapnim Yikodem Latavas Chamesh Neiros. First they cleaned off the Mizbeach HaPnimis in the Heichal, where they had the Ketores. They cleaned that off. And then they cleaned out the Chamesh Neiros, which was the menorah. So my time, why did the Mizbeach HaPnimi come before cleaning off the menorah? Amar Abaye Gemara Gamirna Svar Le'Yadnana. It's tradition, we don't know the reason. Rava Amar Kerish Lakish. Rava says there is a reason behind it. We know the reason. The Amar Shlakish ain't Maavirin ala mitzvos. There's a halacha that you're not Maavirin ala mitzvos. You don't pass over mitzvos. You have the opportunity to do a mitzvah, you don't pass it over. Since the Mizbeach HaPnimi, the Ketores, Mizbeach HaZav, was closer to the entrance of the Heichal than the menorah. The menorah was further in, so therefore you clean it off first before you clean out the neiros. Now, the question is, where do we know Ein Maavirin al mitzvahs from? Where do we know that? Rashi explains that Pogei of mitzvah lo yavar min of anafkalam mechiltem v'shmartem es ha matzos karibei es ha mitzvos lo tamtin lashatak v'nifti. I was once asked, I was younger, a friend of mine, he asked me, what's the difference between Ein Maavirin al mitzvos and Zrizin Magdim al mitzvos? Is there a difference between the two? I always thought the answer was Ein Maavirin al mitzvos is talking about when you have two different mitzvos in front of you, like you have the Mizbeach HaZav and you have the menorah, don't pass one over the other. And Zrizin Magdim al mitzvos is only one mitzvah, and you shouldn't delay doing that mitzvah. After doing Daf Yomi here, I want to suggest a different shot that Abaye was the one who didn't know the reason. Rava knew the reason. Rava is the same one who says on Daf Charam Beis here in Yoma, the way I learned the Gemara. The Gemara says, Rav Safra said that Avram davened mincha already after Chatzos. In the afternoon he davened mincha, the early afternoon. So the Gemara says, Amar Rav Yosef, Ana and Chav Charam Beis, Ana Avram Neikum and Nigma. Rava Tana Gam. This is astonished. We're going to learn from Avram. That's not the halacha. The halacha is at least plag on mincha, maybe b'di'evid, but definitely not from Chatzos. You can't daven marav. So Amar Rav Tana Gar Avram, Anam Lo Garmina Minay. So Rav, the way I learned this Gemara is that Rav is saying that we have a brisa that taught that Avram did the right thing, but we don't learn from him. The sign of Yom Hashmini Yom B'Sar Elasam. Lamed Shekol Yom Kasher L'Milel Shejid Makdim on the mitzvos. Shneimar Vayash Avram Avoker Vayachbosh. Says that Avram got up early in the morning and we did the Akedah. And the Gemara learned about Milo also, that he did it early. Zrita Makdim on the mitzvos is Azari's. He's Makdim on the mitzvos. He does the mitzvah before its time, before the time has come for the mitzvah. He does it. Presumably even before your Yotzei, even B'di'evid. I want to suggest Avram did these things before Alos HaShachar and Amar HaShachar. Like we said before, Amar HaShachar is before Alos HaShachar. Alos HaShachar technically B'di'evid is day. You have to do mitzvahs at Neitz Chama. Amar HaShachar is before that. That's considered night technically. We learned on Daf Lamed. But there's an inyan to do a mitzvah at that time. What does an inyan mean? We always say there's an inyan to do this, an inyan to do that. In Judaism, what does that mean? Inyan means, like the Gemara in Kedushin says, that they're discussing things, the discussion. The way the Gemara was formulated is that the Mishnayos and all the things will have machlokas. What's the idea behind machlokas? Machlokas is that there's always two opinions to every argument, or three opinions to every argument. And Judaism in the Torah tells you have to prove which one is the right one. There are legitimate opinions that are at the end wrong. They technically are wrong. We don't know exactly which one is the right one. That's the point of halacha, to figure out which of the opinion is the right one. But each opinion is considered Torah. It's considered Torah. Bekiva's opinion and Rabbi Yossi's opinion, they all consider Torah. They're an opinion, they're a legitimate opinion. Whether they're right, la halacha, that's for us. Every generation, they're abanim to decide and the Omdei Torah to decide which one is the right one. That's an inyan. An inyan means it's an opinion. You could talk about it. It doesn't mean that's the halacha. It means probably it's not the halacha. It's just an inyan, and you're makayim the mitzvah of limud and esak Torah, but it's not the actual mitzvah. So Zriz Magdim mitzvahs means you do the mitzvah before the actual time, and where it's just an inyan to do the mitzvah. And the Rabbi says it was wrong. Zriz Magdim mitzvahs is not a good thing. It's doing it, but ein Maavirin al mitzvahs is the opposite. Ein Maavirin al mitzvahs is that when the time comes for the mitzvah, you don't pass it over. Like Rashi says, Shmartem is a mitzvah. Shmartem is like Yaakov Shamar Tzadavar. He waited till the right moment came, and then he did it right away. You wait for it, and you do it right away. And that's ein Maavirin al mitzvahs. Now, the Gemara says, Amarava on Lamed Gimel and Beis, Amarava about 5 lines, 6 lines down. Shramina midareish lakish avurei dara to tefta aser. Heichi avid midara to tefta. He says we can learn from Reish Lakish that he says ein Maavirin al mitzvos that when it comes to putting on your tefillin shel yad and tefillin shel rosh, first you put on the tefillin shel yad and then you put on the tefillin shel rosh. Why? Because when you're taking it out of the bag, you reach your arm first and then your head. So first your arm comes, and once that opportunity for the mitzvah of the arm comes, you have to do it right away, and then you do the rosh afterwards. So the Gemara says heichi avid. Heichi avid seems to be a superfluous question. We just said that you do the shal yad first, and the Gemara says midar al tefta. First you put on the shal yad, and then put on the shal rosh. It's a superfluous question. Furthermore, Tosfos. Rashi, that's what he explains. Heichi avid, Rashi says that you first put on the shal yad and then you put on the shal rosh. Another problem with this is that Tosfos says we have a different makor. The Gemara in Menachos says a different reason that you put on the tefillin shal yad before the tefillin shal rosh, because he says first in the pasuk it says you put on shal yad before the shal rosh. So how do we answer Tosfos' question, and how do we answer the superfluous Gemara? So I wanted to suggest over here that if you look carefully in the Gemara Menachos, previously before that, when the Gemara says first you put on the shal yad and put on the shal rosh, and then you take off the shal rosh and then you take off the shal yad, it was talking between tefillin and tefillin, and it's usher to sach to talk putting on tefillin shal yad and tefillin shal rosh. That's what the Gemara was learning over there. The Gemara is saying immediately after putting the shal yad, you put on the shal rosh. You don't do a hefsek in between them. And the same thing when you take them off, if it says Vayul to the vos beinecha, calls man shu beinecha yu shtayim. It says Vahayu that when you should always have two. When your shal rosh is on, you should always have the shal yad on. And this is Vahayu, so therefore the Gemara learns out that you shouldn't interrupt. Basically, they both should come off pretty quickly at the same time almost, and there should be no hefsek between them. So if that's true, so the Gemara there is not talking about. So our Gemara says that. You put on the tefillin shal yad before the tefillin shal rosh because of ein Maavirin al mitzvos. And then heichi avid is really like what Tosfos is saying. The Gemara is asking, so specifically, how do you do it? And the Gemara says midar el tefta. Right away from the shal yad, you go to the shal rosh. That you don't do a hefsek in between them. It's referencing this Gemara Menachos that you don't make a hefsek between tefillin shal yad and tefillin shal rosh.